I'm doing well, Eric.
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. I'm really enjoying this show. I mean, I love the character. I mean, when we first meet Kyle Turner, he just rocks up on a kind of horse, which is an incredible intro. Do you remember sort of reading that and thinking, yeah, this sounds good to me? And just how important are kind of character introductions to an actor when it comes to kind of getting into a script and realizing if it's a role you want to take on?
Yeah, you're right. It was an interesting introduction, and I guess when I read that, I hope that he would continue on to be as interesting as that. And I immediately loved it because I love working outdoors, and I realised the show was pitching to people who might enjoy this genre, but we were going to have the opportunity to transport them to some incredible landscape in which to base our crime or our mystery. So I was in immediately.
Yeah, what's Yosemite like as a backdrop? Not just only for the kind of story, but just for yourself as an actor, because there's so much beauty to that landscape, but there's such a sense of kind of isolation. It almost feels never ending, like a kind of ocean in some ways.
Yeah, we wanted that. We wanted to get that sense. We wanted the audience to feel like they were in a national park, in a vast national park, and all the sense of vulnerability that comes with that, as well as the beauty. There's always that sense of kind of natural danger, but also we're introducing the human element, the human danger that's lurking within a park, and I think there's something that we respond to on a visceral nature to that.
And just to go back quickly to that kind of intro, when you kind of do come in on a horse, I know obviously actors do sometimes have to do kind of training on what it's like to kind of ride horses, so it looks very natural to the characters. I'm just interested to know, of all the roles you've played, have you ever picked up a really interesting or quite weird skill for a role that you've kind of, that's quite unexpected, that you've all actually quite sort of taken with you in your normal life?
Yeah, they're all really different, and there's a lot of things that I've learned, and then sometimes it'll be something that you don't think is going to be at all difficult, and it turns out to be really difficult. I remember I had to learn how to single scull row for a film, just for like an opening sequence. And I could not believe how difficult it was to row correctly and properly, in a way that it looked like you'd been rowing when you were a kid and at college and so forth. So occasionally it'll be, and then a skill set will come along like horse riding or bareback horse riding that you think will be insurmountable, that you somehow find easier. So it's hard to know what the challenge is going to be, but it is always a privilege to be able to get thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, it sounds like such a perk to this job. But
It is.
I mean, yeah, there's something so familiar about these shows and these kind of characters. It kind of harks back to kind of classic detectives from the kind of golden era. I think your character's even referred to as Gary Cooper in one moment. How do you think the show balances that kind of endearing sense of familiarity, giving viewers what they kind of want and what they're used to, but also giving them something completely unique and original at the same time?
It felt very original, and Mark and I were pains to try and make sure the show was as cinematic as possible. That was a real hook. We wanted people to feel a sense of the scale of the national park, and really just to feel like if they're sitting at home and they're binging on this, that they are being transported to somewhere absolutely incredible and engrossing.
And when it came to kind of researching the role, do you do much with a character like this, which feels so cinematic? Do you do much research into actual detectives, or can you almost use other cinematic kind of creations across the years as your kind of reference points in some ways?
Yeah, I mean, I did have access to someone who was a former ISB agent to talk to about a lot of these things and the way that how the hierarchy works and their interaction with the rangers and how they work together and all that sort of stuff. But I always really rely on the text and the writer to try and work out, okay, who really is this person? And that stuff's really important, but what's more important is that you nail the essence of the character and what the show's trying to do.
And one thing I love about characters like this is that they always feel like they're just a step ahead of the viewer. When you were reading this kind of script for the first time, was he also a kind of step ahead of you? Did you almost feel you had to catch up in order to play it?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's also really fun with how you calibrate that with the audience with this genre, because you also, at times, you want the audience to feel like they are ahead of the character. And I think there are moments in this series where the way the information is revealed, the audience does get ahead of Kyle and behind Kyle. And that's really interesting to kind of calibrate and play with. And I think it's really important for the audience as well, because we love to feel like we're clever. we love to feel like we're smarter than the characters that we're watching, and that we're one step ahead and able to solve these crimes.
And how are you when it comes to kind of solving crimes from your sofa? Are you quite good when it comes to sort of murder mystery, detective set thrillers and guessing the ending?
I feel like I'm getting better because I'm so involved in the editing process on some of these things. And I realise what some of the misdirects can be, but when they're well done, you shouldn't be able to spot it, right? It always needs to make complete sense in the end, but you shouldn't be able to spot it. So they're always a challenge, no doubt.
And you mentioned obviously being involved in editing processes and stuff like that. Do you think that your relationship as a viewer to the arts has changed at all now you're so ingratiated in this industry? Do you find that you kind of watch shows and films and where you sometimes look at the mechanics of it as opposed to just watching it for the story?
Most definitely, but fortunately, when I watch something that's great, that goes out of the window. So whether it's a really riveting performance, or like I might be kind of conscious of the shooting style or whatever, or the cinematography and the lighting and so forth, but after about 5 minutes, if I'm engrossed, that just all completely disappears, and I just become like every other viewer. So I do crave high quality for that reason. I love when I can just divorce myself of being bogged down by all that detail.
And one thing that does make it so easy to get completely involved in anything is watching Sam Neill on screen. What's he like as a kind of screen partner? He's just got this magnetism, this kind of classic kind of aura, I suppose, where the second he appears, you just feel so kind of mesmerized, I suppose, by Sam Neill. What's he like to kind of play alongside in a show like this?
Well, he was absolutely mega to work with, obviously, and he's an icon of, particularly growing up in Australia with so much Australian cinema that he was a part of. But there's just, he reminds me of some of the great actors that I've worked with, that there's a real effortless quality to his work, and very well prepared, great sense of humour. But there's this, I would call it this effortless quality to watch, and it's great to work with. It's absolutely wonderful to work with. Yeah, amazing.
I know you're still sort of promoting the first season, but in regards to kind of what could go on beyond season 1 of Untamed, is that something you have to bear in mind when you're shooting a TV series or something for sort of streaming? Do you ever have to see things with a kind of long-term perspective and think about how characters could be developed beyond the season you're in? Or do you have a duty just to sort of focus on what's in front of you in the episodes that do exist?
Yeah, most definitely not. No, because you just are so focused on making the greatest 6 hours you possibly can, and you realise that, well, you wouldn't even have a theoretical conversation unless that was great. So Mark and I were just so focused on those 6 episodes and those 6 hours. I mean, we understand that the structure of Kyle's job is that he could be positioned in any national park in the country, right? So you have that in the back of your mind as a possibility, even within the same series, right? Those mechanics are there, but no, you're just so concentrated on that season and launching that character.
And my final question is just a quick word on, I wanted to ask you quickly about Memoir of a Snail, because it's just beautiful cinema. And I think Adam Elliot really is such a genius. How thrilled were you to collaborate with him on that and to be a part of a project like that and to be part of something, because he makes so few sort of projects. It must be, how special is it to work with him on a film?
Look, he is such an incredible artist, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a few of his productions now, and it was made just down the road from our production office in Melbourne, and being able to visit the set and the world of claymation, it's so rare. It's so rare, that stop animation, that where everything is handmade, and the time and care that's taken. So I'm so thrilled for him that it was so well received and recognised as his other films have been. I think Mary and Max to this day is still the favourite film for my wife that I've ever been in as a tiny character. So he's really special.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Eric, and best of luck with your release.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys.
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys!